IO Interactive has been working on a new 007 game that was teased back in June. Many were hopeful at the time, but ever since the recent new gameplay reveal trailer came out, many were quick to judge as well as lose their initial hope and hype for the game. So let's go over why some people got disheartened by the new reveal. The most absurd comment I've heard about it was that it was a cheap Uncharted looking game, which I didn't get because the game looks pretty on par with Uncharted 4, graphics wise at least, which granted was released back in 2016 I think, so of course it is a bit odd to see that the graphics are pretty much the same almost a decade later. However, they aren't worse, they're just the same, so I don't really see the problem here. Because personally, I do not care about the graphics of a game that much, to be honest, as I'm more interested in the actual story of the game. But I do get those players who take an interest in both or put more of an emphasis on the technical part of video game making. To me, this looked similar to Uncharted graphics-wise, but also in regards to some of the action scenes and the combat system in general, since both looked very similar to the Uncharted series as well. And of course, you can still see the Hitman DNA in the game too, which is what the studio is most well known for after all, so it does make sense why this looks so familiar and also similar to the Hitman games as well. I also get that for those who aren't particularly receptive when it comes to more action-oriented games like the new God of War games, Uncharted, The Last of Us, and Sins, I've heard these games referred to as boring, walking simulators, movie games, interactive cutscenes, and so on. So this criticism didn't particularly surprise me, as this type of game is either a hit or a miss with players, depending on what genre you most enjoy. For example, I can see how this type of game could feel boring and slow and so on to a Souls-like player, since they're used to a more fast-paced storytelling that also requires a lot of practice in order to master. So an action game, whose main purpose is telling you a story, could feel like a chore to a player who's used to fast-paced, non-stop action and combat. So I wasn't surprised to learn that the most prevailing sentiment in the live stream chat could be encapsulated in the word boring. Especially since ever since 2016 to 2018, people have become more and more used to more fast-paced, action-packed, Souls-like games. The third and last criticism was due to the technical issues the game seemed to have during this reveal trailer, with the sharpest comment about it being 007 FPS. But I'm not worried, as the game is coming out in March, so there is still time for optimization, and honestly, does no one remember the Hitman games? They were chock full of bugs as well, with NPCs walking through walls, floating, the actual game itself crashing, so as sad as it is, I kind of didn't expect anything new from IO Interactive in this regard. It would be akin to expecting Bethesda to release a bug-free game, to be honest, so yeah, I wasn't really surprised by the technical issues that were present in the showcase. And again, good on them for not trying to hide such things from us, as that would have been even worse. And if they can treat this like Rebel Wolves did, for example, and take this feedback into consideration and try to polish the game as much as possible before the release, then they can still turn this around. So I'm not ready to drag them or criticize them for this one yet. As for myself, I sit in the hopeful camp, as it does look like a very promising action-adventure game akin to God of War, The Last of Us, and of course Uncharted, which are all games I enjoyed immensely. My only criticism is the technical aspect, as I'd appreciate it if they finally managed to learn something from the constant fan complaints about the performance of their games. But other than that, if the story is good, I don't really care. I'm going to play the game, as that's what attracts me most to games in general. The game seems to be in the good hands of people who seem to genuinely enjoy this iconic character, as evident by the fact that they seem to have stayed true to the source material, with James Bond having his iconic cheek scar from the novels themselves. And the team had previously mentioned that multiplayer wasn't in the conversation at all, which tells me that this will be a complete and fulfilling single player experience and story, which again is what attracts me most to games. However, I do concede and understand that for people who don't like this type of games, this will in fact look and be a very boring gaming experience. But I do not see why we need to criticize a game simply because it isn't a genre we personally enjoy. For example, I don't particularly like Souls-like games, but I can still understand why some people like the game so much, as my brother is an avid Souls-like player, so I get the satisfaction one gets once you manage to defeat a very difficult boss, for example. But personally, I get frustrated and can't say I have as much fun as others do with such games. So I get feeling some type of way about this game if it isn't up your alley, but I don't get why we need to put said games down for those people who do enjoy them. The rage baiting and the constant drama farming is exhausting to me, and I simply do not understand why each game that comes out needs to be followed with some type of controversy, drama, or premature criticism.